Hi everyone, in this video I am covering the Unit 7 test review. So let's go ahead and get started with number 1. This question is asking what the degree is, so we need to look at the first term. This term has two variables, so it has an a and a b, and that b has an invisible exponent of 1. And so since we have a squared and we have b to the first power, then together our degree is to the power of 3. In our second question, we're going to classify the polynomial. So we not only need to look at the degree, but we're also going to need to look at the amount of terms. So the highest degree is 2, and so the word that we use for that is quadratic. And so you can go ahead and cross off, let's do process of elimination, go ahead and cross off C and D. And then when we're talking about the amount of terms, we have 1, 2, 3 terms. So since we have 3, this is a trinomial. So it's a quadratic trinomial. In question number 3, we are finding the sum, and sum means to add. So let's go ahead and add these. Looks like we have 2 trinomials, so let's go ahead and add these 2 trinomials. So I'm going to set them up right over here. I'm going to write them out one more time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of color code my like terms so that I can stay nice and organized. Hopefully you did that too. If you didn't, now is a perfect time to do that. So in red, I have my terms that have m squared. So 6 plus 7 is going to give me 13, so 13m squared. Now let's do our terms that just have an m, okay? So we have negative 5m and positive 2m. That's going to give me negative 3m. And then lastly, we have our positive 4 and our negative 5, and so that's going to leave me with minus 1. Okay, and so the option that matches this is B. This time, for this next one, it is asking us to subtract. So when we subtract, we're going to need to give that subtraction sign to every term that is in the second trinomial. Okay, so basically the signs of each of those terms are going to change. So let's rewrite the first part. And then we are going to have negative 9s squared plus 2s, and then minus 5. And now we can do the same thing that we did last time. So let's combine those like terms. Okay, so when we combine these, we're going to get positive 3s squared. Now let's combine our terms that just end in an s. So we're going to get positive 10s. And then lastly, let's combine our constants. And so we're going to get minus 11. And it looks like the option that matches this is B again. Okay, so now we are at the last question on the front page. And so what we're going to do is we need to distribute this term that is outside of the parentheses to each term inside of the parentheses. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the coefficients, and then if they have a variable with an exponent, if we're multiplying those variables with exponents, then we add the exponents. So what you should get is negative 4y to the 5th plus 10y to the 4th, and then minus 12y to the 3rd. And the option that matches that is A. So that was the first page of this review. Okay guys, so now we're on the second page of the review, and we are going to divide a polynomial by a monomial. So the first thing that you should have done is you need to, each term that's in the numerator, you need to divide it by the denominator. So divide it by that monomial. So let's go ahead and write that monomial under each term, and hopefully I have enough room to do this. Okay, so let's go ahead and divide. When we divide our coefficients, it's just normal dividing. So for this first part, and I am going to color code this again. So for this first part, you're going to get 5, and then again, we're subtracting those exponents. So you're going to get x squared, and then you're going to get y. Now let's look at this next set. So let's do this in green. So -9 minus 3 is going to give us -3. X squared divided by x is going to give us x, and then those y's cancel out. Okay, and then lastly, let's look at this guy. So our numerator and our denominator are the same, so that doesn't mean that we can't just get rid of it. It's not like when we are multiplying. We are adding. So remember that we are adding. There's that addition sign. So since this is equivalent to 1 at the end of our answer, we need to write +1. Okay, and so it looks like C has the same answer. In 7, we are going to need to FOIL. We need to write both. We need to write this what's in the parentheses twice. So let's rewrite it, and let's write what's in the parentheses twice. And we need to use FOIL. So first, let's do first. So let's multiply what is first in each of the parentheses. So that's going to give us 4x squared. Now let's do the outer. When we do the outer, we get positive 6x. When we do the inner, we get positive 6x. And then when we do the last, we get positive 9. All right, let's combine our like terms. So we're going to get 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. So that's our answer, and it looks like D matches our answer. Okay, in number 8, we have 2 binomials. This is asking us to find the area. It's a rectangle, and when we're finding area of a rectangle, we're doing length times width. Okay, so let's just call one of them the length and one of them the width. So we're basically multiplying these 2 binomials. So we're going to do the same thing that we did with the last question. We're going to FOIL again. This is just a different way that you may see it. Okay, so let's do the first. And so we're going to get 7x squared. Let's do the outer. We'll get 9x. Let's do the inner. And so we're going to get positive 28x. And then let's do the last, which is going to give us negative 36. Let's combine those like terms. And when we do, we're going to get 7x squared plus 19x minus 36. And so that is our answer. Okay, so now we are on number 9, and we have a binomial multiplied by a trinomial. So in this case, what we're going to do is we are going to distribute that first term in that binomial to each term in the trinomial. That's what we're going to do first. So 3w times 2w squared is going to give us 6w cubed. And then 3w times negative 5w is going to give us negative 15w squared. And then 3w times 4 is going to give us positive 12w. Okay, now in red, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it with the second term in the binomial, okay? And since we're multiplying by 1, we can just rewrite everything from the trinomial. Okay, so positive 2w squared minus 5w plus 4. Alrighty, let's combine our like terms. So we only have one term that has a cube, so that's going to just stay as it is. So 6w cubed. Then we have negative 15w squared and positive 2w squared. So that's going to give me negative 13w squared. Then we have positive 12w and negative 5w, which is going to give me positive 7w. And then lastly, we're just going to write the plus 4 at the end. Okay? Okay, and so for this last one, we are going to divide. That's what it means when it says the word quotient. So what we need to do is we need to break this up a little bit. So everything in the numerator needs to be divided by the denominator in individually. Okay. So you should have rewrote it like this. Okay, so 24 divided by 6 gives me 4. These a's are going to cancel out. I'm going to get b to the 4th. And then 36 divided by 6 gives me 6. I'm going to be left with a to the 7th. And then I'm going to also be left with b squared and c squared. Okay guys, so now we are on the last page of this review. The first part that we're going to do, so for these first two questions and also for some others throughout this page, we're just going to be factoring out the GCF, greatest common factor. So that's what we're going to do with these first two. So the greatest common factor for 11 is 5a squared b. And so then in parentheses, you're going to want to have an a because you would have to multiply a by what is on the outside in order to get that first part. And then we would also, for the second part, we would need, in the parentheses, we need to have minus 4 because when we multiply it by what is outside of the parentheses, that's how we're going to get that second part. All right, let's look at 12. The greatest common factor for this is 5x, and so then in parentheses, we're going to have x minus 2. And if you were to distribute, you would see your problem. For 13, we are going to factor, and so what you need to think of is you need to think of what are factors of 14 that when I multiply them, I'm going to get negative 14, and when I add them, I am going to get positive 5. And so these numbers are negative 2 and 7. So how you're going to write this is x minus negative 2 and x plus 7. If you wrote it the other way around, that's fine. So again, we need to think of numbers that when multiplied give us negative 36, and when added, give us negative 16. So in this case, the bigger factor is going to need to be negative. So if I have negative 18 and positive 2, when I multiply them, I get negative 36, and when I add them, I get negative 16. Okay, let's look at 15. So 15, we notice that each of the terms could be divided by 3. So that's the first thing that we can do is we can take out our greatest common factor. So let's take out a 3. And so that means in the parentheses, we're going to have x squared minus 5x plus 7. Well, guys, 7 is a prime number. So its only factors are 1 and 7. And 1 plus 7, 1 minus 7, we're not going to get negative 5. So this is all we can do with number 15. Let's look at number 16. We can do quite a few things with this one. So with this one, we don't have a greatest common factor that we can factor out. So we're going to use our AC method. I know you love this method. So when we do 8 times 15, we get 120. So we need to think of factors of 120, positive 120, that when added together are going to give us negative 22. You should have realized that this is negative 10x and negative 12x. Okay, so then you're going to write everything else down. And then let's group. Okay, so we're going to group the first terms, 2 terms, and then we're going to group the last 2. Okay, so with the first 2 terms, we're going to factor out the greatest common factor. It is 2x. So then in parentheses, we're going to have 4x minus 5. I know you're probably running out of room. That is okay. All right, we want whatever is in parentheses to be the same with the green grouping. So we already know our parentheses. However, we need to figure out what is going to be on the outside of the parentheses. If we have a negative 3 on the outside, then we get what we had in our green grouping. Okay, so now we know our factors. We know that parentheses repeats, so that's one of our factors. And then also the coefficients. So in the other parentheses, we need to have 2x minus 3. And that's it. You did it. Okay, let's look at 17. So 17 does not have a constant. It's just a binomial. So the only thing that we can do with it is just factor out an x. So it's going to look like this. X, and then in parentheses, x plus 6. All right, and then let's look at 18. So 18, if we think of our factors of negative 18, so let's just think of factors of 18 first. So I'm going to write that over here. So 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. Guys, if you try to like multiply any of these, or if you make them negative, you're not going to get a positive 5. So in that case, then your answer is just prime. And this may happen. You may see this. Okay. Alrighty, we've got 2 more and then we are done. So with number 19, what we're going to do is we're going to work with the numerator first. We're going to factor the numerator and then we will divide. Okay, so we can't factor out a greatest common factor in the numerator. So the first thing that we're going to do is let's rewrite it, and then we're going to use the AC method. So let's multiply 4 and negative 3. That's going to give me negative 12. And then numbers that multiplied together give me negative 12 and added together give me negative 4 are negative 6x and positive 2x. So go ahead and write everything else down. Let's go ahead and group these. I apologize, my cat is using the litter box. And now let's go ahead and take out the greatest common factor for this first group. So that would be a 2x. And then inside of the parentheses, we have a 2x minus 3. With this other group, we can only take out a 1. That's it. That's all they have in common. So you're going to have plus 1 and then 2x minus 3. All right. So when we put this together, we know we're going to have 2x minus 3, and then we're going to have our coefficients, which is 2x plus 1. We are not done, and I would not be surprised if this is an answer option because they're trying to trick you. You're forgetting the last step. The last step is to divide. So again, right up here, we're dividing by the 2x minus 3. If it's in the numerator and in the denominator, it cancels out. And so guys, our final answer is 2x plus 1. Okay, lastly, let's do number 20. This one's easier than the one we just did. So the first thing we need to do is we need to factor out the numerator. We know that x plus 6 in parentheses and then x minus 6 is going to give me what we had in our numerator originally. And so let's write our denominator. And then those cancel out, so our answer is x minus 6. All right, guys, good luck tomorrow. You're going to do great. Thanks for watching this video.